Awkward business podcast.
Business podcast.
Awkward
Business.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Awkward Business Podcast. This time with a special guest, Sandro Schindler. And today we're going to talk about risk and what it means to us in our daily lives. So, for the intro song, prepare. Get into the zone, please.
Should we make a short or a long one?
Short.
Sean, I was going to say Sean. Short.
Good.
Awkward business.
Life.
Good, very different.
Life.
Okay.
That was awkward.
That was really awkward.
Next time I could do a beat.
Yeah.
Let's try
that's
again
good.
with the beat.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awkward business podcast.
Business
Podcast.
Awkward.
Business.
Okay, no, it's like I feel so embarrassed.
Okay, let's make another one.
No.
Maybe somebody who's into music can teach us.
Yes, well, Sandro is.
He actually.
He played
That's
it.
should
Bring
teach
the
us.
drums, okay?
Yeah, just a little casual drum set in the back.
I
think-
So cool.
It fits
We already
into
spent
the
like
point.
1.5 minutes talking about awkward sounds and awkward music.
That's true, you are the musician.
It's great. Giving value.
Giving the value to the listeners. So, should we start with what we said before? With what does risk mean to us personally? I think that will be valuable because I think for many different people it means different things, and then maybe how it is valuable or maybe not valuable. Who knows? To take risk. Would like to start.
Ooh, I struggle with the definition of risk, actually.
Me too. But I think I try. For me, risk is like knowing about a scenario or different scenarios who could happen when you do something. So like a calculated outcome. So you are aware what things could happen when you do something. Good things or bad things.
Yeah.
That's risk for me.
I would add on to this, even the same definition. Plus, it's also something I could do where I don't know what's going to happen. Like a risk that cannot be calculated, kind of. Like going into the unknown as taking a risk kind of thing. Yeah. What about you? And you?
I think the interesting stuff about the risk is we always look at the bad side of risk or of risk management. It's always like, oh, what could happen, you know? But then we never talk about what could also happen, like on the good side. You mentioned that a little bit. And I think that one is something I really want to talk about as well today.
Same.
For me, risk is... No, but
This has to be something special.
My expectation is very high.
yeah. No, but I agree with everything you said, and at the same time, I think risk is a complete illusion. So there is nothing like risk. It doesn't exist. It's a thought. So whenever I get nervous about something, I imagine there to be risk involved. I don't mean, of course, life and death situations where you're like thinking about cliff jumping 30 meters. But in normal business situations or in normal life situations like we have them, there isn't and now dangerous topic, but especially here, like where we live in Switzerland, there is no real risk of doing anything. Like I feel the only place where risk actually exists for me personally is in my head, where I'm like afraid of different things. And I just realized whenever I've done something, my mind is extremely good with coming up with different things that could happen. And they rarely to never happen. So I think I overestimate my mind, and I overestimate the capacity of it to even do risk calculation. Like, oh no, if I will do this, then maybe this could happen, maybe this could happen. But I am 100% sure that mostly something completely else happens, actually. I think of the convention that Sina and I organized together, the Lifestyle Design Convention, later the Inside Out Convention. These were... it looked like huge risk because it was a huge time investment. We booked the venue. It was a self-development event with over 100 people there. And I could have not imagined the outcome of those things, but I made up a lot of things. I don't know if that kind of makes sense.
This is also something you learn in psychology, because we are good with our brains to think about stuff that we know can happen. So we usually look at the stuff we can lose. For example, if we go after high school or whatever, you go 1 year abroad, for example. You only see the stuff that you already know as something you can lose. You can lose touch with your family in that time. You are not in your comfort zone environment, kind of thing. So you look at the stuff and you get sad because you might lose this stuff. But your brain is not able to imagine the stuff that could happen because you haven't experienced it yet. So that's also something like that happens in our brain, is we are not able sometimes to imagine the outcome, the good stuff that can happen, the stuff you can gain, all the learning experiences, all the new cultural experiences you make and all of that, because you haven't experienced it yet. So that's also a little bit also our brain to look at the stuff that we can lose instead of the stuff we can actually gain. That's what I mean if I talk about, I go into the unknown, which usually is better than I could have ever imagined, because I can only imagine what I already know, kind of.
This is very interesting.
Yeah.
I think also, it's reported that more than 90% we worry about never happens, actually. So when you see this number, 90% or 95% never happens. So what is now more realistic? Be like the pessimist, so I don't do anything because this and this could happen? Or do I live on the realistic side and just say I enjoy life and try things out? Do these new things, right?
Yeah.
When you know that,
The most adventurous people are usually the ones who say, I don't know what's going to happen, but I feel like I want to do it and try out and see what's going to happen.
I think interesting is also, if you think about only 90%, it doesn't happen. And when it happens, it's sometimes also not that bad. You know?
Yes, exactly.
And I use that sometimes within workshops. So if we go on a journey together, then I say, okay, before we start, let's make first the best case, or first the worst case and then the best case scenario. And then they start with the worst case, and then they realize we're already in the worst case. That's an example. Or it's actually not that bad. I might lose my job, but this is the worst. I'm gonna survive easily. It's this is usually the baddest thing which can happen, especially here in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And I think it's very relaxed if we think about them. And then you go on the best case scenario, and then you see the gains, the potential gains you actually have. And they're factors. It's more realistic that they actually really happen, and B, they will happen as well if you a little bit believe in them,
And even we often make this distinction because we live in Switzerland and we have it well. And then there is a whole world where, or a huge part of the planet where there is so much, just situations where it's harder for you to just start a business or just make your ends meet, these kind of things. But the beautiful thing is at the University of Lucerne, where we have this university model called Model U, where we go with students, take them on a journey about self-discovery and stuff like that. It's oftentimes the quote-unquote non-privileged people that when we have this discussion about privilege and number, they say, shut up. Like, we can do this too. Like, it is also possible for us. It is, and I have one now business partner of mine, actually, Ramin. He's from Afghanistan. He had an incredibly intense, terrible journey until he came here. And he said this stuff is actually also important for people to reflect on, especially on those regions of the planet where there is only fear in the heads of people oftentimes, and actually also not. He also described a life that is also, there's also very beautiful things about being there, but also, of course, a lot of terrible things. So it's just something that sometimes I feel almost ashamed to talk about these kind of concepts because I'm afraid. But it's nice to hear that kind of like, well, it's kind of a human condition that we are kind of pessimistic, as you said, that we think that our head is very good with coming up with negative things. Mm-hmm. But we have this kind of other intelligence, I feel, this intuition or deeper knowing that something feels good. Like, you think about something, it feels good, and then the head comes in. I talked about this many times during workshops. It's like you have an idea, and this idea feels scary and exciting. So you feel this kind of feeling, how you will feel when you when you will actually do it. And then a second later, your head comes in and tells you, but all the thoughts why it will not happen. And what usually humans who are conditioned like us in Western cultures are doing is they trust the they trust the but, you know. No, but and now I use it again. But nevertheless, we are trained to listen to our mind, to our intellect much more than to this gut feeling and this other intelligence. And I think that's not a very smart thing to do. I feel like the mind is an executor of intuition and not the other way around.
It should be.
It should be. That would be wonderful. Yeah. Which is, okay, reality check, it's mostly not for me. You know, like, I'm not living this hippie life where I'm just like, I
always try to remind myself.
Yeah, that's true. While I was saying it was actually, why are you judging it even? But this is the fear, right? It's the social conditioning that I have very deeply. And at the same time, if I follow my heart, but it's true, like, if I follow my gut feeling, it mostly goes well. And even if it doesn't go well, I learn so much. I learn incredible amounts. I already learned with the podcast. That made me nervous at the beginning. Now it doesn't make me so nervous anymore. But I learn a lot on the journey. We have, it's just cool to hear, like, our ex-roommate is listening to the podcast and, like, hearing her, I like this or something like that, you know. It's like, cool. But it doesn't make money, you know. The podcast doesn't make money, so you're afraid, you know. That's risk. This podcast for me was a little bit of a risky thing to do because we invest time and energy and stuff like that, and a lot of thought goes into it until you underestimate how much work it actually takes until it's out there. And now we found out that there is an editing mistakes and blah blah blah, you know. So.
But why are there risk-averse people and people who are looking for risk? Why is there such a wide gap?
That's interesting, because before you asked that question, I was thinking about like the environment where I grew up and my family and everything. It's a lot of, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And then, for example, they would see someone working at the beach. Like, oh, I wish I could be at the beach. I'm like, yeah, you could do it. You could book a flight and go and work online. Like, no, I can't do it. No. And then, you know, like, stopping themselves kind of from experiencing something because there's a little risk of leaving something behind. I don't know. That's how I grew up, kind of thing. And now I'm much more risk taking. Sometimes, not always, of course. But I remember, like, what you said when you said you have the intuition of doing something. I remember 3 or 4 years ago when we had the idea of doing coaching and training full-time together, Kai and I was talking to Marina, my ex-roommate in Berlin, And I've only lived with her for a year or so. And then I told her about this idea. I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about going to Switzerland, and we could do this full time. It would be super exciting. But, and then the head came in, but it's expensive. I don't have money. I don't have friends there. It's going to be hard to get started all over again. Da, 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 da. She's like, oh shit. I'm like, what? Like, I know what you're going to do. I know. I'm like, why? So when you said you moved to Switzerland, your eyes were shining. And then you said, yeah, but, and then gave me some blah, blah reasons for not doing it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, damn. I'm like, no, give me some time. I will think about it. Mm-hmm. And it took me half a year to actually listen to that, to take the risk, and then to say, okay, I'm coming. So, yeah, but why is it that there's such a big gap?
I think there is also like the ability to fail. Yeah. Like once you realize that if you fail, that you can like get up and recover from that. And for me, for example, that's a big one, you know. Mm-hmm. I know if that everything here would fuck up, it would be okay. Mm-hmm. I have a safety net, quite a big one. Yeah. And B, I probably would get a job somewhere. Not the perfect one, but there would be something, you know. And I did that in the past. I fucked up many times, and it felt good. Yeah. And I'm very, very grateful for all the fuck ups I had in my past.
But you made these fuck ups, and you are also able to share it. You know, I think the environment or the people, many people around you, they always hear those success stories, and I mean, you heard that many times. Oh wow. Whatever, he built his company, he's successful, but that he failed maybe 100 times before. Nobody wants to know, right? Mm-hmm. So you always compare with this huge step, be a billionaire and playboy, whatever, but that there is actually just a small step at the very beginning. People don't see that. Yeah. I think so. This is like, as you said, I mean, it's also the comfort zone and an awareness that you are in the comfort zone. And all those blah, blah. I mean, I really would like to do it, but I cannot. So this is just an excuse and not an awareness that you are in your own comfort zone. I think this is also why a lot of people don't make this step.
And it's comfortable in the comfort zone. It takes energy, but it can also give you energy to take the risk to go into something you don't know what's going to happen. It can be quite exhausting also for people, but the experience is it makes you grow so much. It's crazy.
And we live in a terrible culture. If you look at that, you know, if you take risk or if you upload like that podcast, sometimes I can feel like people around me, you know, like, Daniel, what are you doing? You know? It's like you're singing at the beginning of a podcast. Aren't you like a businessman, you know? Don't you want like to attract like big blue chip companies? You can't attract blue chip companies.
Do you actually have people who said that? Or is it in your head that you think people think that?
It's both.
Yeah.
For
it's
me,
usually both.
Same. I was so scared to share the podcast on LinkedIn, for example, because I knew people were going to see it. And I'm always scared of what people may say, even though I know rationally it doesn't make sense. I shouldn't listen to it too much and stuff. But for me, it's important that my friends like what I do, kind of. And I don't know. I'm always scared then to share it. That's my personal risk when I share it. Oh, what's the feedback we're going to get? Makes me so nervous. That's outside my comfort zone. What you talked about.
Yeah, really. What really helps was the thing you said like in December when we walked around in Knox. You said once that, I'm also a little bit hesitant of clicking that share button. But do we really want to make business with companies would think that this is stupid or this is like childish or anything? And I had to say like, no, actually not. So if you listen to that and you think like, oh, this is childish, maybe it's not interesting. That's okay for me. But when you think like, this is not like how you should do business in 2021, and you're our customer, that's okay. Then let's discuss that, you know?
And I feel like if the podcast or any other project we do, if it fails, like what you said, you fail, we never start at zero again. We always start again from what we've learned and then next step already, kind of. Do you know what I'm saying? We never go back to, we lose everything and then we're back at zero and have to start all over again.
No,
it's
because
more like,
you have
hey, we've learned
experience.
something from this.
Yeah.
And then next time you start at another point already to do something else.
Okay, so when you would focus on the money, you have it, but you spend it once. And the experience, you can keep it all the time, you know. So you grow with this experience, it's not with the money. So as you said, we don't make money with this shit, but...
Yeah. And actually, maybe we do. And that's the interesting thing. It's just hard to track. But what I've also seen is with a lot of stuff that I did, quote unquote, for free, I think we can do a whole other podcast about how important it is to hand out freebies.
Yeah.
I think that's really important to do something for free just because you enjoy it. I've seen it with the convention we've organized with Sina together. Is like there has been business coming out, there has been network coming out, there's been collaborations that go up until today with Daniel Yordi, for example, where we co-created the CEO Collaboration Day, where we did projects together, panels, and all that stuff, just because of an idea. And then the execution of that idea, even though it didn't make sense money-wise. At the beginning, at least, it looked like it. And then all of a sudden, again, your mind cannot come up with the positive side effects of things. So all these things popped up. It put me on the map of different people. But we put us together. I mean, this collaboration wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have had the idea, and Sina wouldn't have had the kind of feeling like that's a cool idea. I want to take this further.
And that was a risk as well, because I was writing my thesis and all of this at the same time, and I was like, should I do it? Should I not? And then the intuition said, do it.
Yeah,
just do it. Yeah, but I could never have imagined what comes out of it.
No,
never,
absolutely not. So why stress about it? I think. Why it always sounds like risk is something to overcome. I have to overcome that feeling. But you can also just look at it. Oh, okay, now I feel scared. There's nothing to overcome. Maybe I do it, maybe I don't do it. It's fine. Everything is fine. I haven't taken a million risks in my life that I could have taken that would have maybe brought me blah, blah, blah. I don't know. But the cool thing is there's new things all the time coming up. I like the quote unquote, whatever you want to call it, the universe or whatever, always knocks on your door and tells you like, hello, here is a new chance to do something fun. You don't want to take it? Okay, I'll come by tomorrow again.
With something else.
Something else. And you suffer a little bit because you're like, damn, I could have talked to this beautiful man or woman or do this project or whatever it is, but I haven't done it. But sure enough, the universe will come again and bring you something else until you do it. And if not, that's fine too. But it's just, it is useful to move into that direction of fear. I like the saying fear is actually the wish. I think a lot of people are fearful or see it as a risk to do public speaking because they actually want to be heard.
Yeah, me.
You know? Yeah.
I am one of those.
Yeah.
Well, I used to be. Still am. So.
Yeah. So it's just the other side. It's just the other side. Risk is like a wish.
Risk.
Yeah.
And if you listen to that now and you think, I didn't take risk. I didn't take risk in the past. Then do it now. I mean,
there's a nice quote that a friend of mine said.
Yeah.
I want to share quickly before I forget. If you never ask, the answer is always no. And if you never do a step forward, you will always stay in the same place. And even if you fail, you win. That's something I was like, ooh, that's true. Sorry, I interrupted, but
No, it's okay.
I wanted to drop this.
Drop the line, and now you can
No, I
take
just-
this
Drop
podcast.
the mic.
I just had it in my head because
Very hurtful for people who are listening. Oh God, why did you drop the mic? It's very painful.
But maybe we make a link to companies, because a lot of our friends or relatives are working in big companies. And when you look back what you said before with the environment, so all those people in the same company have the same way of thinking. So can they be actually innovative? Can they bring up innovation with these big companies by taking risks? Can they take risks?
Yes.
What do you think about
I
this?
think so, yeah, for sure. And I think there is a lot of organizations, big or small. It doesn't even matter on the size so much, that are innovative and that have a good climb. I think what happens a lot, what you're saying is everybody has the same thinking. I actually don't believe, I think a lot of people have very cool, innovative thoughts. They think like, oh, I want to get out of this. But the thing is not that. The movie that everybody portrays, the picture they portray of themselves is one of like the opposite of vulnerability, non-vulnerability. Is like showing, look, I have everything under control. I am not making mistakes. And if I am making mistakes, which is crucial for an innovation culture, to have a failure culture also, to say it's okay, it's fine to fail, and you're not trying to fail, but it's fine to fail. And oftentimes in organizations, I see it's like there is a lot of fear.
Yeah.
It's very fearful, and in some organizations there is not that much of fear, but people are like, oh, I cannot show myself. The thing is, innovation happens when you show yourself, when you are relaxed. All states of mind that in a lot of organizations, at least for my personal experience, when I worked in offices and big companies, I oftentimes felt, it's my own insecurity, but I oftentimes felt this base level of nervousness. Just like sweaty hands is my thing, right? Whenever I'm nervous, I have sweaty hands. So I had those sweaty hands the whole day, always, kind of whether I was behind my desk or whatever. I always felt like I was cheating, I was not working enough, blah, 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 or I'm not making a good impression, or this person hates me, blah, blah. So it was this. And I think in this kind of culture, it's very hard for innovation to grow, because then people try to perform, to be innovative. And innovation is something I believe that happens when you stop trying. That's when the best ideas come, when you're like, let's come up with a new idea. I had this yesterday. We came up with a workshop for doctors and nurses and stuff like that with my friend who's a doctor, with Marco. And we were at the point where I could feel it's forced now. Like I'm telling him about stuff and we're discussing it. I was just, the energy was heavy in the room. It's like, ugh. So what I see oftentimes in organizations, people push through. They're like, okay, it doesn't matter, it's heavy. We have a deadline. And the thing is, if you just go for a walk, which you oftentimes is not socially accepted in a big organization, so, oh, why don't we go for a walk to relax? They're like, no, we need to work on
You
that.
should be working.
Yeah, I should look busy. Not working necessarily, but I should look busy.
That's true.
Then that doesn't work. But we went for that walk. We came back refreshed after 15, 20 minutes, and we were probably finished faster than if we would have pushed through, quote unquote. But it's something that is very new and it's not new, it's actually very old and ancient, this wisdom, but it's something that just slowly starts to drop in, especially in the Swiss corporate culture. It's very slow coming. But people are curious, and I think a lot of individuals are curious, and they invite us to collaborate with them. And it's oftentimes there's really cool people within quote unquote old-fashioned organizations, and I'm really interested to collaborate also with them, because that's like because they are the organization on a level. They're just not so many people yet, but it's changing.
There's a lot of pull also from them.
Yeah.
And you can feel like that pull coming. Like, okay, they see that you're 100% Daniel or 95% Daniel. Mm-hmm. They like Daniel. And they want to work more with you because you're not different like in a private setting than in a business setting. So they really, really like them. Mm-hmm. And what I hear a lot is like from people who are still like very much in that corporate bubble. They always tell me, for you that's very easy, because you're self-employed, and being innovative, if you're like self-employed, that's very easy, that's the easiest thing on the planet. But if you're like corporate, then it's much different. And I think it's not. I have so many friends who work in corporates who are like crazy innovative.
But it's the structure and the organization that don't bring this up. You need so much energy to break through this. So look, I think managers are here to manage old world, not our world. But in the most companies I see, they are here to manage. They are not there for taking risks because they are managers. They know how it works, right? So what they forgot is make experiments. Because when you make an experiment, you don't know the outcome, right? Okay? So risk is always like, we know actually what could happen. So this is bad, so we don't do it, right? And an experiment is the complete opposite. So we don't know what happened. And this is where the organizational, the manager or whatever, pull the brake. Because that's not good, This is fear afterwards. They don't know what the outcome could be. When you have like a group of us and says, okay, do something. We don't know what, we don't know when, and how much it would cost maybe. So that's not how organizations works today.
Yes, most of them don't. I agree. I agree with you. And I think... I see it. I'm a little bit torn. I see what you're saying there. I think this word entrepreneur comes up a lot, right? I think it is possible to be innovative, to be very innovative within an organization. It just takes a lot of courage and patience. It takes much more patience, right? We have an incredible speed of implementation. We talked about this many times. We have an idea. I take my WhatsApp and I send an audio message to somebody instantly. If we have this idea and we think it's great, let's do it. Just imagine that in a corporate context. You need to go through a steering committee. You need to go through all these hurdles.
You need to propose the idea.
I agree. Sometimes you don't. And I've seen you can hack the thing. It all starts with you, whether you're an entrepreneur in an organization or entrepreneur within a small company or big company, whatever. It is true, you can hack any system. I've seen that. Like I've seen people moving around a lot of things just because they were very passionate and pragmatic about it. And at the same time, I see what you say. Those challenges look much more real, and it can be more demotivating if you have this idea and then somewhere you have somebody who pushes against it and stuff like that. But then again, we have to... I feel as an entrepreneur or consultant, you have to fear that they will not pay, not book you again. So this is also quite risky. So, right? Or you're paid to be innovative. But you're paid to be innovative in the right way. And if you're not innovative in the right way, you don't create results. They don't have to have a 3-month period where they... or you're just done. So I think both levels of innovation, whether you're an entrepreneur or entrepreneur, is challenging. So you cannot say one is difficult.
Yeah, there's different definitions also of innovation. Like I feel like so many companies have a department for innovation and development. So many nowadays.
Where ideas go to die.
Where ideas go to die.
Because as soon as they come out of this project group, then it dies.
Yeah, it's because that's why I think because there's different definitions. I've also met a tech CEO on the CEO Collaboration Day last year, and he kind of hires for his innovation team those intrapreneurs who come up with ideas, have this kind of innovative thinking of, hey, let's try out. If we fail, we do something else. They experiment. They have a team of 5. And they have awesome innovations and bring those to the market as well and experiment there. And they are much more successful than everybody else who's just staying in the same place and not doing any real innovation kind of.
But then
So-
it comes back to risk. You
Yeah,
know?
they are taking officially risks,
Yeah.
kind of like what they would also define as risks, but they do also innovation, which kind of goes hand in hand, maybe.
I mean, the most successful entrepreneurs I know are the people who are very good at their job. And they work like 40 hours per week on their normal job, which they get paid for. And they're not working 50 or 60 hours a week on that job because they know like 35 to 30 hours is way enough for what I'm getting paid for. And then they invest like 10 or 15 hours per week on cool stuff, on their passion project. And they sometimes do that under the radar, you know? They just do it, or they write like, they do like another master, or they do it they prepare that until to a point where it's like 80% finished. And then they go to their bosses and say like, look, that's something cool. I really want to work on that more. But then they're already on those 80%. And like that, they built like new business lines, new products, new services. And I have some friends who actually did that in the past. And they are crazy innovative, crazy successful, even though they work in corporate. But they realize that they don't have to work like 50 hours to be successful in their normal job. And I think like, with that approach, you can be very innovative, but you also have to go into the risk, you know? You have to invest like 10 hours of your free time, of your hobby time, and you're not getting paid for that. But you will maybe get like an awesome job afterwards. That's your investment. And then it's very similar to what we're doing, you know? Most of our innovations are also like free time, ski touring time, hiking time, you know? Not like, oh, I'm getting paid for 40 hours, stuff like that. It's more like when we're out and about.
And it would be beautiful, or that's something that I think is a big motivator for me, is to create an environment in general where also in corporation, where they don't have to do it under the radar anymore, you know, where it's actually encouraged. And I think it would be good for everybody, like everybody involved in that game of economics and like just corporations. It would be useful if creativity would be celebrated more. And it seems that we are still a little bit stuck, and I see myself as well a little bit stuck in that short-term thinking, or maybe also just in this making a good impression game. And I think this making a good impression game has brought us here, which is cool. It's nice. But I also think that also it sounds very meta, but also for this planet, it's now time that we cut the bullshit, you know? It's really time, and I talk to myself as much as I talk to anybody out there, is like the more I can really cut the BS and just focus on clients I actually want to work with, focus on impact I actually want to create, focus on stuff that I truly want to do. Not that I do out of the wrong motivations, but I truly want to do. I think I will be more impactful. I will be more happy, satisfied, and I can see that already moving slowly for me, much too slow. But I'm trying my best to move into that direction. Life has become very much more fulfilled and happy, and like not easier necessarily. I don't think it. But it feels more relaxed because there is not so much friction between my, my good impression self and self. All this energy doesn't go to waste, you know, because I invested I'm very good at putting myself together. I still have this problem that how can I just be yourself, you know? But it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to keep that up. And it certainly doesn't motivate risk-taking, innovation, creation, all those, or coming up with new stuff, all those topics we talked about is really, really hard if you're in your social role, you know, and just trying to be not vulnerable and not human. If you're in your non-human role, sorry for that. I think if you're in your non-human role, that really sums it up for me. It's not human to make to try all the time desperately to make a good impression.
I think the funny thing is that we as a society really celebrate the people who are really like in that human role, like Elon Musk, you know?
Yeah.
He doesn't give a shit. And we really celebrate that guy for doing it like that and to like get rid of like all the conformity, like which is flying around. But still, everyone tries to be still as conform as it possibly gets. Even though we celebrate the guys who actually got rid of that stuff.
Yeah.
So there is a big disconnect there.
Yeah, but we know, I mean, people will judge you anyway. All your actions will be judged. So why don't give a shit about it, right? Because it doesn't matter what you do. You will be judged all the time. So when you are on this point, like you said, don't be in this social role, try to shine all the time. Try to be human.
Yeah.
We're good at the shining part.
And if our listeners, if you're sitting in the corporation now or thinking, yeah, you can say that, but I can't do it here, just give it a try. Yeah, I also feel like it's much less exhausting to just show more of me instead of trying to look busy, trying to hide who I am, and trying to hide all the stupid jokes I'm making. It's much more fun to be more me. But also I know it in corporations, you can do it. It may be unusual, but nobody says you can't do it. So also when it comes to risk in general, for me, it's more like it all comes down to why not? Like, yes, there's the risk. And why would you do it? Yeah, but why not? Just try it out.
Be patient. It's a lifelong process. Like, I still feel I'm nowhere close to this imagined destination that there is, which is never going to come anyway. So like, you have your whole, you have time. And I liked Gary Vaynerchuk, really cool dude to check out. A little bit aggressive, but very nice.
Maybe you can sponsor.
Gary Vaynerchuk, Vayner Media, please sponsor us. Big fan. He said something along the lines of that. Even if you're 50, you can start your company. If you're 60, you can start your own company. It's not, by the way, not about starting your own company, obviously. But what I heard is you can always start to move into that direction anyways. It's never too late. It's never too dire, your situation, that you can, there's always, you have so much more potential. You have so much more potential than you could ever think of with your head. And there's countless examples of humans who just tapped into a small part of that and just did incredible things. And you are of the same species that has this potential. Yeah.
How should you start? Go for passion, right? Get rid of your head. Go for passion. And do it.
Just do what scares you a little bit, but your gut feeling says, I want to do it.
Passion gives you also more energy to endure those long periods which are maybe not successful. So just when you have the passion, this is the drive. It always pulls you again to do that, to try. I think that's really important.
Or other way I said, I think you already started. It's not that you need to start this process. You just slowly, kind with yourself, continue that process. Because like, again, it's not about overcoming. It always looks like it's about overcoming, but it's just seeing like, oh, there's another scary thought I have. Fine. Doesn't mean that I have to react. Doesn't mean that I have to go with that. Doesn't mean that I have to ask myself, why do I have this fear now? I can still go do this presentation also if I'm nervous. And then I can be again vulnerable, open, and say, right now I'm nervous holding this presentation. And at the same time, I really want to do it. And it's fine. I've never seen anybody who shows themselves like that, people laughing. It's if you try to make a good impression. That's when the trouble starts. That's when the energy gets strained. But if you just slowly do something you're a little bit scared of, you don't trust your head so much, That's already it. It's not so eventful and dramatic, I think. It's not such a big deal, but if you continue doing that over years, maybe for some people is. I think they have this big revelation and like kind of Oprah moment, where now I'm going to do it. For me, it wasn't like that. It's a slow, quiet, self-reflective process where do it again, do it again, do it again. And all of a sudden it becomes, you see the pattern, it becomes automatic, and you just continue moving in that direction.
And then at some point, you start to realize that you became that person. I think that is also like a very important one.
Yeah.
You struggle, and then you're sort of getting better without realizing it. Mm-hmm. And then at some point, you're like, for me, it was like being a trainer, Mm-hmm. Struggled for a long time. And then at some point, I was sitting in my car and I was like, dude, I think you're probably a trainer now. and then at some point you realize that, and it's okay. Then you became that,
Mm-hmm. You grow.
Yeah. And maybe it took me like 3 years.
Yeah.
And I'm still not where I want to be. But
but on another level, right? So you always turn up. There are a lot of things, they come back to you again, but in another way, and you react different afterwards because you have this experience we always talked about. Mm-hmm. You grow with all those experiences. Mm-hmm.
And you cannot go back to the very beginning. No. You cannot unsee the stuff you have seen for yourself. Mm-hmm. You just cannot. There's no way you can go back to zero or wherever you started.
And the experience no one can take away from you. I had a cool discussion with Suni over the weekend, and she told me the big difference between you guys and like a lot of like other like conceptual consulting companies is that you know how it works, that you made like hundreds of trainings, and you should just put out that number. Like, how many trainings did you give over the last, 10 years? It would be a crazy number, but just it makes you realize in that moment that just by giving like dozens and hundreds of trainings, you've just seen a lot, and that really changes also how we tackle our consulting challenges these days.
That's true.
Yeah.
Not rewriting the most beautiful slides, but because we have the experience of actually doing it.
Yeah.
That's nicely said.
All right.
47 minutes.
Very good.
How much minutes do we still have left on Buzzsprout?
I think I will need to open an advance account. No, we'll see.
Taking that risk.
Again, if you want to get into contact with us, you can do so via different channels. You can subscribe to us on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can comment on the YouTube clips, obviously. You can connect with us via LinkedIn. Our names, Kai Kristen, Daniel Jordi, Sina Mail. Daniel Marty, Sina Mail. But
you
can also
have you, Danny.
You can also connect to Daniel.
You can also connect
He's
with
a good guy.
And he also has many good things to say, I'm sure. Sandro Schindler.
We should invite him for the podcast.
I think so, too. Would be a good interview partner.
Or if you have questions or any other topics you would like to hear about or talk about or ask questions about, let us know.
Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
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 Awkward business. Awkward business. Podcast.
Live.